Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Other Record Labels. I'm your host, Scott Orr, where we talk about the art and culture of running an indie record label. I want to talk today about, I want to share something with you that I didn't write, that came from an interview we did last week with Grimalkin Records. And if you haven't yet listened to that episode, go back and listen to that, and that will kind of preface what I'm going to read you today. But I want to share something that was discussed in that episode, and it's something that the folks at Grimalkin Records put together. It is a resource on how to become more inclusive if you are in the DIY music community. So that's if you're an artist, or if you're a volunteer, or you're involved in music in any way, or like us, you run a record label. How tips for white folks, especially involved in DIY music, on how we can become more inclusive. There are 8 of them, and I thought what would be really important is to just read these aloud. This is not something that I can speak to with any authority whatsoever. But somebody in our Facebook group, Adrian from Mint Records, who we've had on the show before, shared this, and now I had the opportunity to speak with Nancy from Grimalkin Records and to discuss the origins of the genesis of these helpful tips. And I think I will be able to put a link to it in the description. I'm going to read them verbatim for you. Number 1, actively learn about BIPOC, queer, and trans-led grassroots organizations and mutual aid collectives in your local communities. Many of the people involved in these organizations are also artists and musicians. That's the end of number 1. I just want to interject, and I want to say what I find so interesting about all of these is a lot of them happen on a local level, and we are so used to things happening in the Twitter sphere and at our desks or on our phones. But what I love about this, and what I hope that I can implement, especially when COVID is over, are all these things on a local level, right within your community, within your city or town. Number 2, learn more about BIPOC, queer, and trans musicians in your communities. Go to their shows, talk to them, buy their merch, share their music on social media and with your friends. You're in the music scene, get to know them and become friends with people by listening and offering your support. That's fantastic. Number 3, slowly build friendships over time with people in these grassroots organizations, mutual aid collectives, and bands. Listen to them. What issues are they having? What resources do they need? What kinds of specific support are they asking for? Number 4, volunteer your time for these organizations. It doesn't have to be a lot of time, maybe an hour once a month. See what help they need. Do you have other skills outside of music that you can offer them? Learn about their specific needs, and then organize and fundraise for them by hosting a benefit show or music compilation. Do this repeatedly. Again, it's so interesting how locally driven these things are. I find that so interesting. Number 5, book shows featuring a majority of marginalized people. Do not make them just the token or the opener. Also pay them. Book shows at venues that pay artists, or make sure they get the door fees and donations. If you need to fundraise beforehand to make sure they get paid, do so. If you don't have money, arrange for a work or art trade. Number 6, slowly work on bridging the gap between music and grassroots organizing, and encourage and support and collaboration within the local community. Number 7, be transparent about money, how and when your artist will be paid, how much is being made by their releases or a show, and how and when those monies are paid. This should be arranged prior to releasing anyone's music or booking a show. This is fantastic, and that's so applicable to our labels. And the final one, number 8, make anti-racist and inclusivity work your top priority in life. Continue to self-educate and integrate these ideas into every arena of your personal and work lives, and do it with love, joy, and passion. It needs to be sustainable. I asked permission ahead of time from Grimalkin Records if I could read this on an episode. I thought it was important as a recap of the Grimalkin Records interview that we did, that I read these out. I found them really helpful. And again, thanks to Mint Records for sharing them with me. But I felt that this was really helpful in in the global conversation that's happening right now. And a lot of us, it's easy to retweet. It's easy even to donate money. But it's a lot more practical and tangible to get out there in our communities. And I thought this was so interesting about how this is so community driven. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you found that helpful. And you can check out Grimalkin Records, and their Bandcamp is, I believe, Grimalkin Records. I think on Instagram, they're Grimalkin. That's like, do they have it here? GRIMALKIN.records on Instagram. And that's where you can get a copy of this. And I'll include a link in the description below. So I thank them for creating this and for letting me share it with you guys. And thank you for listening.